things are happening. Okay, I want to recess the Board of Education closed session. Sorry for starting just a little bit late, but our closed session has some really important topics to this district, and we didn't finish, so we recessed it, and we'll reconvene it later. And now we'll convene the Board of Education open session meeting in honor of little Elise Gutierrez. This is the newest addition to our MUSD family. And Minerva Gamas is a proud grandmother of this new MUSD family member. So we'll open in honor of her. At 7:04. Pledge of Allegiance, Dr. Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm just fine, thank you. Good evening, Monrovia Unified School District Board of Education and Cabinet and community members. We're happy to welcome you here this evening, and I'm going to introduce three wonderful Santa Fe 8th grade Awesome Cougar Scholars. I just saw, there's Mr. McGinnis, they're coming right at you, and they're very excited. So our first speaker tonight is Sofia de la Peña.
Good evening, Monrovia Unified School District Board of Education, Cabinet, and Monrovia community members. At Santa Fe, we are known as an Awesome Cougar Scholars. As you might have guessed, we are awesome. My name is Sofia de la Peña, and I am an 8th grade scholar. I am happy to open tonight's board meeting and share a few thoughts in my last 3 years. Santa Fe is a great place to learn and grow. Whenever I have a problem, I have not only had support in solving it, but I have learned how to help solve my own challenges. I look forward to applying my skills at Monrovia High School next year.
Thank you, Sophia. Good evening, Board of Education, Monrovia Unified Cabinet, and Monrovia community members. My name is Chelsea Wong, and I'm a proud, awesome Cougar Scholar. My past 3 years at Santa Fe have been wonderful years of growth and many new opportunities. I have been part of Cougar Robotics, as well as our girls' soccer and basketball teams. There have been many inspiring assemblies and fabulous field trips that have inspired me to continue to work hard for a bright future. I am grateful for all I've learned at Santa Fe to prepare me for Monrovia High School. I've applied to Master, Early College, and Renaissance for next year. I am looking forward to a great 4 years at MHS.
Good evening. My name is Jose Maldonado, and I am excited to open tonight's meeting. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Awesome Cougar Scholars. One other quick note, something really exciting is today, we just came flying back from the Arboretum, Chelsea, Wong, and I, and 2 other students who were there. Thank you to Dr. Sue Kaiser, who organized Monrovia Unified's being part of a Girls in STEM convention this afternoon at the Arboretum. It was awesome and inspiring to see the room full of young women who will become our future leaders, and MUSD was well represented with students from Clifton, Santa Fe, and Monrovia High School. So yes, it was exciting times. And Dr. Kaiser and I were sharing our feelings that it is so important whenever possible to get Monrovia students to all these wonderful opportunities. Thank you for that. It's wonderful.
Let's give these guys a great big hand.
Come on, guys. Let's shamelessly promote Sophia. Good. I want to see it. your students?
Thank you very much.
Some of them do.
Let's make sure that they all do.
Oh, our students.
Yeah. Here you go.
They're your best
There
promoters.
we go. Right? Promote. Yeah, yeah. Where's Natalie, your reader, huh?
We're all stopped
You
quietly.
guys keep going this way. You should be in the center. The kids should be in the center. Here we go. Anne's not here to organize us. And you know, you need to be up front. All right. Here we go.
Okay, let's see this man.
Are you gonna make me?
Okay, you go. Not looking forward. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Chelsea, you flipped upside down.
Oh, one more time. One more time.
Look over here. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
See how I got you?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Santa Fe. We appreciate that. For the roll call, all members and cabinet are present except for our student representative and Annalisa Amaya, and she's excused this evening. On the closed session, we'll have that report after we finish the closed session. Board agenda discussion presentation items, which includes input from anyone on the order of business on the agenda. Do we have any changes?
We do not, President Gilliland.
All right. Could I have a motion to move the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Ms. Huff?
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Abstain.
Motion carries 4-0.
All right. Then we'll move on to recognitions and communications. Dr. Jackson, you have the floor.
Yes, Board President Gilliland, members of the board, Dr. Tarosi, and community. This evening, we are honored to recognize our classified and certificate employees from Monrovia High School for this month for their commitment to our community, the district, and most importantly, our students. In recognition of their service, they will receive tokens of appreciation, of course, from the school board, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Foothill Federal Credit Union. So with no further ado, I'd like to invite our Wildcat principal to the podium, Mr. Kirk McGinnis.
Good evening. Thank you. This is an outstanding opportunity to honor some amazing Wildcats and some future Wildcats. We have some 8th graders in this evening that I am so excited to see come across our doorstep in a few short months. Good evening, President Gilliland, board members, cabinet, community. It's an honor and privilege to be the principal at Monrovia High School, home to scholars and champions. And tonight we have 2 outstanding champions that I'd like to introduce you to. Sarah and Derek, would you come join me up here while I boast and brag about you at the same time? It's always more fun to have them right next to me.
I was like, where'd they go?
So I'm going to start with Sarah. This is Sarah Valenzuela. She is our classified employee of the month at Monrovia High School. Sarah, it is an incredible honor to stand here this evening and congratulate you on behalf of our Wildcat family for your undying commitment and dedication to Monrovia High School. All the students with whom you work are lucky to have you with us. Sarah Valenzuela is the quintessential example of a dedicated employee and one with whom you would love to work. For the past 2 years, she has been an inspiration on our campus as one of our outstanding attendance clerks. Sarah forever has a smile on her face, and she's always happy and willing to help any student in any situation that comes her way. It comes as no surprise that she has made such great relationships with students and staff and parents alike, because she truly understands that she is an integral part of the kids' academic success. I think somewhere in her heart she knows that her efforts are directly connected to the students' success and walking across that stage when in graduation. Whether she is helping to translate a conversation, calling home to see if a child is sick, or making sure that kids are where they are supposed to be at any given time, she does also with professionalism, poise, and patience. Sarah is perceptive, she has a quick mind, and she is able to meet students and their parents on an emotional level that is appropriate to the situation. She is driven to understand students and what motivates them. Sarah is an exceptional employee and a natural fit in the Monrovia High School community, and that is why she is the Classified Employee of the Month for Monrovia High School. It wouldn't be a Wildcat celebration without some Wildcat swag as well. You're welcome. Okay, Derek, come on up. This is Derek Ong, and Derek is one of our fabulous math teachers at Monrovia High School. From the first day he set foot on our campus, was it 6 years ago? 5 years ago. I'm already adding years onto him. It was clear that Derek would be one of our rock stars, and he is. Outstanding, prepared, lifelong learner are just some of the words that come to mind when we think of Derek Ong. One step inside of his classroom tells it all. From the group collaborations to the mathematical thinking, the use of instructional technology, and the thought-provoking justifications, his students rise to the challenge on a daily basis. Outside of the classroom, Derek continues to be a lifelong learner and has voluntarily taken on the role of the personal technology coach to the entire math team. He is always willing to help any student or staff member and has dedicated himself to finding ways to help students succeed. You may not know this, but Derek was one of the 3 teachers that were selected by our students to speak at the memorial service for Kelsey Meza, the student our school family lost this past December. It is teachers like Derek who not only foster learning in academic subjects, but also connect with our kids on the most important level, the human level. What an honor it is for us to have Derek Ong as part of our Monrovia High School family. And it's for that, Derek, that you are the certificated Employee of the Month for Monrovia High School. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Bag, and a certificate. Thank you. And I think a photo opportunity. What would a celebration be without a photo opportunity? One more time for our outstanding employees.
Tell her that you can shoot pass it on to you. I'm showing off. I'm just, you know.
This is just a warm up.
Just hold on. No pressure, no pressure.
One, two, three. One, two, three.
Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. We have such great teachers and staff here in this district. I'd love to see these recognitions of them, and I sure appreciate the chamber being part of it because it's the whole community that supports you guys, so we appreciate it. And thank the chamber for participating also. All right, moving on to number 2, National Counselors Week. Dr. Therosian.
Absolutely. President Gilliland, members of the board and community, I'm going to invite Dr. Catherine Real, our Director of Counseling, College, and Career, to tell us a little bit more about the extraordinary individuals we have the opportunity to celebrate today. And I'm so glad they're here.
Thank you. Board President Gilliland, board members, Dr. Therosian, members of the cabinet and the community, it's my honor to be here tonight to talk about our counseling team. And as you heard last week, it was the American School Counselors Association National School Counseling Week. So if you don't mind, can I call the counselors up right now to join us up here?
Yes, that would embarrass them further.
All right. So it is my honor to be here tonight to brag about our counseling team here in Monrovia. And they're not all here tonight, but they're all amazing individuals. So our counselors are advocates. They are leaders. They collaborate every day with staff, with parents, with students and administrators to bring about systemic change in our school district. But most importantly, they play a vital role in providing equitable access to success for our students and bringing about an optimal learning environment that is unique to each and every student. Our counselors care deeply for the students whom they serve, all of them. They believe not just in our students and their colleagues, but in the unique community of Monrovia. They're a critical part of our common goal to provide world-class schools for world-class students. And I could talk all night about the wonderful things that they do for our kids, but here are just a few examples of what they do to serve our students. Where's that coming from? At the high school, our counselors meet individually with every single parent and every single student over the summer to make sure that our students are setting high standards for themselves and setting goals and monitoring their progress. At the middle school, our counselors guide our students through choices and events that will propel them into their high school careers, full of success and full of confidence. And at the elementary level, our counselor provides the support and skills necessary for a strong foundation in academic, career, and social-emotional development. I'm sure that all of our administrators and teachers here tonight and spouses will agree that this is a great group of individuals and we're really proud to work with them. Oh, here they are.
That way they can hold
Where are the certificates? Yes. Okay. Nolani Paterka. Jennifer Oldenburg. Astina Jones. Samara Hirsch. Noel Hernandez. Amanda Gezzi.
representing elementary. I think this is scary. Hey, no, administrators should be up here. Come on. That includes Mr. Silas.
Okay, we're gonna stand right here. It's okay, it's okay. Now you can sit
All right, thanks so much. Our counselors worked so hard. Thanks for being here tonight. Let us celebrate with you. All right, as soon as this calms down, we'll move on to board member reports. We'll go left to right. All right.
Thank you, President Gilliland. February is Black History Month, and the district partnered with the Monrovia Duarte Black Alumni Association to put on a art festival last week.
We get somebody to close that door so that we can hear Mr. Avantes.
We'll just wait a minute.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, President Gilliland. So I attended the Black History Month along with board member Celine Lockerbie, and it was just an incredible display of art, and it just so varied. Every wall, every inch of the walls in that room at the high school was covered with beautiful artwork, representative from all 5 of our elementary schools. So it was just a fabulous event and very well attended. That's it.
Thank you. Did you have a report, Rob? No. Ms. Lockerbie.
Thank you, President Gilliland. I had the exciting opportunity this past Friday to be a judge at the first Tech Challenge Interleague Tournament. Thank you. Okay.
And she was there all day long.
Yes, so I had the opportunity to be a judge at the first Tech Challenge Interleague Tournament. Judging is no small task. I had to study up on this for weeks before the tournament. The judging started at 7 a.m., interviewing the teams, inspecting the robots, reviewing the engineering notebooks, watching the tournaments, and deliberating with other judges about which teams would be the recipients of which awards. Maritza Travanti wasn't able to be a judge because her daughter was on a competing team, but she was there all day as a cuer, helping the teams get into positions for tournaments. If you'll notice on that second picture, there is someone familiar there as well. Our president, Ed Gilliland, showed up after, I think, our soccer game, right? Robotics is amazing. These kids, 30 teams from all across Southern California, are dedicated, and it shows in the extraordinary work that they do by building robots working with their teammates, and reaching out to the community. Participants, kids, talk to us about servos, diodes, strafing wheels, linear activators. For a minute, I felt old and not very smart. And then I felt inspired. This program isn't just about building robots. It's about being gracious, being mentored, and being a mentor to others, involving the community. Check out that picture. Our stands were filled with spectators. And ultimately, about having fun. I am proud to report that our Monrovia teams, Kings and Queens, Suitbots, Team Loki, and Graveyard Shift will advance to the regional championships. But I am prouder to report that Monrovia strongly supports our students being part of the future.
Thank you. I just have one quick report. I went to coordinating council this Monday morning, and it just struck me as we went around the room with the different organizations that are in Monrovia, how many of those reports dealt with services to our kids and programs for our kids and support for the school district. And it just reminded me once more what a great community Monrovia is, where truly this community thinks it takes a community to raise a child, and the participation is so good. So that was a great time of hearing so many great things that are going on with our kids in the district and outside the district with a lot of our cooperators. All right, moving on to the student board member report. Dr. Therosian is going to give the report for our absent student.
Thank you. This is on behalf of Annalisa, who I'd like to thank for making this font just a little larger for me. I won't do it justice, but I will try my best to present as enthusiastically as she ordinarily does. Things are happening at Monrovia High School. The MHS robotics team hosted a very successful tournament this past Saturday in the Events Center. MHS teams had a very successful interleague tournament with 4 teams advancing to the regional championships hosted by MHS on March 9th. The following robotics teams from Monrovia High School will advance to the regional championships: Kings and Queens, Suitbots, Team Loki, and Graveyard Shift. MHS also did well with the judges. Kings and Queens won the Inspire Award that goes to the event's top robotics team. Graveyard Shift won the Think Award for the best notebook, and Suitbots won the Innovate Award. Additionally, Kings and Queens were nominated for Connect, Innovate, and Motivate Awards. The Suitbots were nominated for the Inspire, Control, and Design Awards. And Graveyard Shift was nominated for the Connect Award. Monrovia High School wrestling in winter sports has wrapped up their respective sports over the past week. Boys soccer and girls water polo participated in the CIF playoffs, and the wrestling team is sending 2 wrestlers, Maury Rams and Mary I am so sorry for not pronouncing that appropriately, to the Masters competition this coming weekend. Spring sports are underway. Baseball and softball have already had their first contests. Swimming, boys tennis, and track and field begin competition soon, and for the first time in the school's history, a boys volleyball team will be competing as part of Wildcat Nation. Monrovia High staff and students are finalizing preparation for our WASC accreditation visit. The WASC team will be on campus at Monrovia High School from March 17th, that's Sunday, through March 20th on Wednesday, to assist in our self-study and to see all of the great things happening on our campus and our community. And just as a final note, while I don't have a superintendent's report, I would like to say that Monrovia High School did have a mock WASC visit today, inviting colleagues from other districts to read through parts of the self-study and visit campuses and meet with teachers and students, and they received some very positive feedback. So we're walking into this WASC feeling confident, like we've done a good job in reflecting upon our practices and moving forward. So The real test, of course, comes with the visiting committee team on March 17th, and we're confident that with all of the work that Mr. McGinnis and his team have done on the campus, that that will be equally successful.
All right, we're moving on to public comments. Ms. Huff, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
There are none.
Do we have any for items on the agenda?
There are none.
All right, then we'll move on to informational reports. Excuse me. The way this is written on this paper, it got kind of confused. It's doubled it up here. Anyway, moving on to student attendance report. Ms. Wu,
Yes.
where did she? Oh, there, you're already at the podium, ready to go.
I'm ready.
She snuck away from her desk.
Yes, I'm ready.
Speed you up.
I'm ready, President Ms. Gilliland, Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Torresian, Cabinet member, staff member, and the community members. The Los Angeles County Office of Education required the school district submit a periodical attendance report. The P1 report is covered from first day of school for this school year on August 15 to December 21st, right before the Christmas holiday. So here's the report, the data we submit to the Los Angeles County Office of Education. And on this school year, our official enrollment on the first Wednesday of October is 5,444. And compared with the last 2 years, the district is still in decline enrollment. And our cumulative P1 attendance, average daily attendance is 5,181 ADAs. Here the slide, we list each school site, their attendance with the enrollment ratio. And for 3 years, some school site increased the attendance and some school slapped down. And on the average, this school year at the P1, we are below than last year's. The cabinet has already sent a message to the school site administrator, the crucial about the attendance. The revenue will be generated by the P2 attendance, and they also have a homework to seeking the attendance improvement plan. So we will continue press the urgency of the importance of attendance in regarding of the students' learning and the district revenue. So we will continue working on it, hopefully that at the P2, which is cut-off day on March 21st, when we submit to the board, submit to county, we will see the improvement for the attendance ratio.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Wu. We'll move on to the preliminary revenue projection report.
Yes. So as the board aware of that, our new governor, Gavin Newsom, right this, I think on his 30 as a governor of California, he released the 1920, the state preliminary budget. And among the state preliminary budget, there's a piece of regarding the K-12 budget. So here's some summary of the budget for the K-12, and this budget information will be as a guideline for the district to prepare the second interim report, which will submit to board for approval next month, and as well as the basic information for us to start in the budget development for the 1920 school years. So this slide shows how the district funded by per ADA. So from K to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 8, 9 to 12, this is the different grade span the student fund on a different level. So we're starting with the base grant from 1819. Then state will give us 3.46% COLA, and we add on. And then for the K to 3 and the 9 to 12, the state also gave additional percentage for the class size reduction. So then come up with the adjusted base grant. So local control funding formula, the first layer of the majority money is coming from the adjust base grant timed by ADA. Then second piece is which Dr. Kaiser leading the monitor program and spending is supplemental concentration. So the supplemental concentration actually two separate grants. The supplemental is 20% on the adjusted base grant times the unduplicate students count. The unduplicate students count including three special category, which is students entitled to free reduced meal, the English learner, as well as foster youth. So the concentration grant has additional requirement. The funding is based on 50% of adjusted base grant, but there's a threshold. So this unduplicate students count have to be more than 55% in order to get some funding. So what that means, our friends school district from the West, their unduplicated student count will be lower than 55%. So which means that they are not entitled to this concentration portion. They may entitled for the supplemental grant, but not concentration. So I assume that, I guess, most likely San Marino definitely will not qualify for the concentration grant.
Can you explain to the audience what an unduplicated student is, please?
Yeah, the unduplicated students mean that those students qualify in three special categories. One is for the free reduced meal, as also qualify the school food lunch program. The other one, the English learner, and the third category is foster youth. So based on the assumption, the previous slides, we calculate this year's LCFF based on the updated information and the next 3 years. Here is the estimated potential revenue the district will receive. And I will bring board to attention that based on the released preliminary budget for next school year, and the governor did not propose any one-time discretionary money. So this will be most likely the last year we would receive this one-time discretionary money. And the board, as you know, that this one-time has already last couple of years. So this year we're funding at $184 per ADA. So we will receive estimate $973,000. So in addition to the LCFF, which is the majority of the state revenue district receive, we also have some little bit other part of the money. The lottery money, unrestricted, restrict, and restricted majority of the money we spend on a textbook, and the unrestricted money we will spend on the classroom teachers. And the Mandy Brock grant, and also separate for the two group, one's K-9 have $31.16 per ADA, and the 9th grade have a little bit higher per ADA dollar allocation. And also the interest rate is revenue projection is a little bit different each year, so that it will help us, the district, to project our potential interest income based on the balance we're in the county treasury account.
Connie, go back to that slide, please.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
And it's on the treasury.
Yeah.
That is a huge jump in 19 and 20 over the 18-19.
Yeah. That's a good question. Unfortunately, that's information from state. So I think they probably have the way, but I can't find out how they get this information.
That's like shooting an arrow in the dark and hoping to hit a target.
Yeah, because they have a big hope.
Well, I know if you put waste substance in this hand and hope in this hand, something else is going to fill up faster. But we can't make assumptions predicated on hope. And we are going to make assumptions on hope. That is a huge number between 287 and 3.19. That is a huge number.
That's correct. When we make the interest revenue, we also base on the county. County, on the quarterly basis, they will send us the updated interest rate on the balance. So this is the statewide guideline. We also use the county-specific guideline for the interest income.
And
So
what is the county suggesting?
okay, David, do you have information for the current the county's interest rate?
Our interest income is quite small anyway, but I'm not projecting any increase in interest rates in future years.
I think there is a large, a growing concern that rates are going to drop as much as they're going to go up at this point in time.
Yeah. So the state had hope, and Mr. Hammer, we did not take this hope seriously, so we did not budget interest income.
So you didn't take that jump into consideration?
That's correct. That is the guidelines. The guideline the state gave to all the California public school, and then the district has our own responsibility to use our own judgment. So that's just the recommendation, and that also the county and the state, they use this guideline to review and approve our district budget. But they always welcome more conservative approach.
So this is the guideline that you've been given by the state?
That's correct.
So will you provide something for us that has our conservative projection?
Yes, when we do the adult budget, when we submit to the board, for example, the next adult budget will be on June 26th. When we submit for board approval, then we will provide the board a detailed guideline how we use to project our detailed revenue increase, including the interest. Any question?
The interest is on what?
The interest is just like a personal bank account. You have money in the bank. Then
So interest on our money in our bank?
Yes, the interest money we put in the state the county treasurer, because the county treasurer normally have a high interest rate compared with our the Wells Fargo on the model and Chase on the model. So the governor did give us a little bit good news, especially on the funding on special ed. We just conducted the study section on the special ed, and our board gave us the insight about discussion during their trip about the funding we can potentially look after for. So they gave us the money for the 576, and some of them is one time. And right now, we are waiting for the detailed trailer bill to tell us how this money, including one-time money, allocated to each school district and how much Monrovia can receive. So this is just like a big proposal, but we're still waiting for detailed information. This is as well as early child care and education. The governor is very passionate about early child care, and then he provide a lot of one-time money, and the money will be adjusted area in regarding of the early access to the child care and education, support for parents and family, and ease the financial burden for this family. But once we receive more detailed information, we will definitely report to the board, and this information, hopefully that it can release the district the special ed encouragement as well as the child development funding. Our child development did a great job. Right now, it's stand-alone. It's separate funding. It has not requested the district general fund bail them out, but we want to make sure, continue that the funding is solid by itself.
Ms. Wu, that top special education, those numbers are statewide numbers?
That's correct.
Okay. Which doesn't amount to much by district, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we're waiting. We're excited, but not really excited, because we want to see how much Monrovia will receive out of this $563 million. So when we talk about the revenue, do not discuss the expenditure, then the budget picture will not be true. So one time, on the one hand, we are very excited or very happy for governor gave us a little bit more money. But on the other hand, we all know that our cost, our operation school increased. The big cost right now is the employees' total compensation, which including the pension plan. So the matrix say that including current in the next 3 years, the stir and the purse, the rate for the district contribution to the state increase every year. For CalPERS is almost around 2% level each year. And from 18-19 to 21-22, it almost jumps over 6%. And the cost stirs from 16.28% to 18.10% is over 2% is because the governor contributed $3 million to buy down the school district liability, including short-term and long-term. So out of this $3 billion with billion dollars, $700 million will be contributed to 1920-2021, the employer's contribution, which is school district. So as a result, the number percentage showed here is already after the governor's contribution, which means that originally without this $700 million buyout, the rate actually is over 18%. So 2021 is 19%. So because of the government, California state's contribution for the $700 million to buy down the 2 years, so we will pay 1% less compared with the original proposal. So another balance of 2.3 billion, it will contribute towards the district's long-term liability. So which means is maybe in the future, the rate of increase for our district's responsibility for all our certificated employees' pension will be less compared with original projection. So that is the purpose of $3 billion contribution for.
So by 2021-2022 school year, that 24.5, which is almost 25%. That means that all of our certificated employees, their salary will give the state an additional 25% of what we're paying the teacher into the CalPERS retirement fund. So for every 4 classified employees, we'll be paying the equivalent of 1 salary into the state. And for every 5 teachers, we'll be paying for 1 teacher into that account. Am I right in that, or am I missing something?
You're right. Just make sure my message is clear to you. Is CalPERS is classified employee, and their customers is certificate. So yeah, you're right. For example, if every $1 we pay the classified employee, basically by 21-22, the district cost is not $1. The district cost need to add on 24.5%.
For every $1 we pay them, we have to pay $1.25.
That's correct.
And for every teacher, we have to pay $1.18.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of surprise of this budget is the next part. So the California said that if any public school receive the state facility funding, the district is required to set aside 3% of our general fund total for the facility maintenance, called routine restricted maintenance. So over the years, a couple of years ago, when state has recession, they lower that requirement. So right now, the district only required, this year, the district only required to set aside for 2%. So original plan is the district will restore to contribute 3% back to 2021. But when the governor released the plan budget, that 3% requirement is moved 1 year early, which is 1920. And the board, this routine restricted maintenance set aside is different from deferred maintenance. The deferred maintenance before the budget reform, LCFF, deferred maintenance is another part of money. So we have the deferred maintenance requirement, we have routine restricted requirement. So LCFF come out, deferred maintenance is not required, but we as a district, we strongly believe that we still need to keep our facility clean, safe, so we voluntarily set aside. But in additional deferment, that is another piece of requirement, which is routine restricted maintenance, because years ago, we received the state matching fund for our facility. So that is before my time. A lot of school districts receive it. So because we receive the money, we need to set aside for the routine restricted maintenance account. So the money we use this is pay our MOT staff salary. We pay our maintain our campus district-wide. But because the requirement implemented 1 year early, that 1% cost district almost $600,000. So.
Okay. This is a new one. So let me go step by step to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So in our normal budgets, we have a 3% mandatory reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it a rainy day fund that we can never draw from for any reason. Period.
Okay.
Even rainy days.
So let me clarify, make sure I give you a clear message. It is not exact rainy fund. It is the district requires set aside to use for the facility purpose.
No, stop.
Okay.
That's what you're saying now. I'm understanding what we've always had in all of our budgets. We've always had 3% set aside, or reserve, excuse me, a reserve.
We don't have that.
Not for maintenance,
Just the reserve.
just a reserve, 3%.
That's why we're qualified this year, because we don't have that.
Okay. We step back. Okay, I think I did not explain. David, you want to give a try? Explain the 3% requirement?
David, will you
come to
yeah.
the podium, please?
I think Mr. Wong understands that this is separate from the 3% he's talking about now.
Yeah.
If you let him make his point.
Separate from what Celine explained.
Yes. So to clarify, again, there is a 3% requirement that's a reserve. It's basically when we do our budget, we're not allowed to say we're going to spend every penny we get. We have to set aside some and say, okay, just in case, we're going to set aside this money. This is separate. This is a requirement. In years past, when I started 20 years ago up until about 2008, if you had taken any state money, you had to spend 3% of your budget on maintenance. That was a requirement because the state wanted to make sure that you weren't letting your facilities go to pot after they gave you money for them. That was suspended in 2008 when they had the big budget cuts. And that number, up until a couple of years ago, went to 2%. We were required to spend 2% of our budget on maintenance. The state law was that starting in 2021, you had to spend 3%. But attached to that state law was legislative intent that said when LCFF is fully funded, you go to 3%, and that was scheduled to be 2021. So the legislation is do it in 2021. There's also intent language that says do it when it's LCF fully funded. CDE came out and said, we're going to ignore what the law says. We're going to go with what the legislative intent was. So that makes it happen next year instead of in 2021. So that's what we've added to the budget now. We have to spend 3% of our budget on building and facility maintenance. And we thought that was going to happen the year after.
Okay.
So that's what the change has been.
All right. Well,
so
this
3%
is
for reserve, 3% on facilities maintenance.
Okay. Well, there's a huge difference between creating a reserve and mandating that you spend it, because we have no problem spending. We
Right.
do have a problem saving,
Yes.
right?
That's correct, yeah.
So the 3% number itself may be slightly confusing because it's being used for 3% is being used for multiple items.
Yes.
Right. So I just want to make sure that we delineate what all these things are and what the real impact is going to be. Right. So this isn't affecting any of our mandated reserves at all.
No.
Correct. So what this is saying is we will be required to spend up to 3% of our budget as early as next year.
Starting next year.
Right, as early as next year, because it may be litigated if we're going against the state law. So let's.
I would hope so from somebody, yes.
Let's just take that to the side. Maybe not such a big deal for us, but for somebody for like LA Unified, that's a huge number. So the question then becomes, how much money are we currently spending to meet that number? Where are we at today? What are we planning to spend? Had there been no change whatsoever, how much money had we budgeted for existing projects to count against that 3% number? And maybe you're going to put this in an update at a later point in time, what is the definition of deferred maintenance as defined by the state for those particular funds?
It's not deferred maintenance. They're calling it routine maintenance.
Whatever you want to call it. I don't really care what the names are.
We're currently this year spending 2% of our budget, in the neighborhood of $1.2 million. We are required to up that to $1.8 million and change starting next year.
So that's $600,000 out of general fund that has to go to maintenance.
I believe it was $678,000. Yes.
So 670. We need to change our existing budget.
Yes.
To include $678,000 of additional, but probably much needed, expense to our facilities, in however they want to have it defined. Is that correct?
That's correct. Despite the state's intent to say it is now local control, you decide what to spend your money on, they were saying that's fine, except we are requiring you to spend 3% on maintenance, whether you feel like that's warranted or not.
Wow, what a shocker.
Yes.
So, okay, but if we could have in our updates on Friday a list what would fall under that category, because this is clearly going to be something that the board is going to want to have a say on how we're going to spend $670,000. Gladly we'll spend it, but we need to know what's going to qualify, and hopefully we can create some priorities on what we would like to see where that money should go.
There is certainly a need for that money. The question would be on.
That's a part two, is if you're saying where does it come from, because nobody knows at this point.
It's a need for the money, but is it a need that's more urgent than other needs we have, and we don't get to make.
But we don't have a choice is the bottom line, yes. Right? So we get to take that whole argument out of what priorities of maintenance versus something else, because we don't get to make that choice. What we do have to do is spend that money. So before we do expend those type of funds, we would like to know what is qualified for it. And also, one other thing I want to know is, is it a cash system? Meaning, do we physically have to spend those dollars at that point in time, or could it be rolled out in a plan? So if we have a 3-year plan to renovate a building, for example, how does that work? When do the dollars have to be expended? And what is the definition of expended? You can put this in the update. I'm not asking you to do this now. So we can have a better idea of what we're going to do. And at the same time, if we can get another reminder on the priorities that MOT would like to see based on our initial master plan, that would also be very helpful.
Well, at the next board meeting, we're going to get the final report on the facilities master plan. So hopefully at some point after we get that final report, we can wrap all of this into, here's what the master plan calls for, here's what we're going to budget, and include this. And
Mr. Clem, if I have a question, I agree, Brian, it's when you have to go spend the money, it's easier to spend, especially when you have so much need and so little cash to do it. But if we're having to carve out $678,000, can I ask what we're going to cut? Because that money is going to come from this is not extra money. This is money that we currently have, that we have budgeted for something else, that needs to get cut in order for it to apply where the state now says you need to apply it. I would desperately like to know what it is that's going to be cut.
So, just to clarify, that is what we're working on for that budget this is all going to be part of that June budget, right? Mm-hmm. So we have some of the new money coming in from Governor Newsom. That's not enough to cover
all of
I want to be
this.
clear. Mr. Newsom did not give us a cent. The taxpayers of California are providing the money, and he is not the Wizard of Oz that dispenses upon us poor villagers. This is our money. So I don't like to give a lot of credit to somebody who's giving me my money back. But that's my own personal opinion. First is when I'm not getting anything extra for it and I'm being told I'm given a gift, as long as I buy the gift myself, I guess I'm not so happy to get the gift. The third is I'm really interested in what we're going to have to cut, because that means there's services here that are going to go away. And we desperately need to spend money on our facilities. That there is no question. But when we're going to reduce a service, that's going to impact a student immediately, much faster than when we put new paint on a wall. And that is what I appreciate that we're looking on that, but that is the big deal here. It's that we're going to have to cut something, $678,000 worth, in order to come into compliance.
Is this something that we can use the one-time discretionary fund for?
This is all from the general fund. And then we will, by next month, when we submit the board for the second interim report, we will all including how we adjust this additional 1% increase for set aside, and where the money come from, where the cut will be. So the information will be on the way.
I would like to request that we do have a study session so we could discuss this a little bit more in depth. One, specifically on Rob's point of where is this money coming from and what's going to be impacted. And two, a separate study session, the game plan on how we plan on spending and prioritizing those funds.
So are you asking for those study sessions before the staff puts together the June budget, or?
Absolutely. I think if they put together a budget and then we come back and rip it up, that's a lot of wasted time. So I would think that Rob's concern is more important of what we're going to cut. We know we're going to spend it. How we spend it, we can always change our minds at a later point in time. So I'm not as concerned about that. But what we're going to cut, I think, is critically important that not only the board makes a decision, but we get community input so they understand what's happening.
Well, that should be part of the LCFF, which is coming right up.
I mean, people are making plans on what we have told them that we're going to provide. And if we're not going to be able to provide it, we need to really think about the services that we're going to be slashing here. So I'm not sure when the appropriate time is, but I would think that it is going to take longer than a single study session to come to a conclusion as to what the board is going to want to do. So the sooner we can start the dialogue and get this ball rolling and find out what all the other inputs are and other questions that are going to come out of this, the better off we are. So even if it's not complete information, I think sooner is better than later.
And I do have a question is in line with this. If the 3% that we have to spend on facilities, Brian's question of whether is that cash that we have to spend or can it be in some other form, can we utilize the value of the staff member that has to compile all the work to make that happen as part of the expenditure? Because let me ask this, I'll ask it a different way. You make so much money, you make so much money, and other people make so much money in the department. By your using your talents and your time to do that, can we use that money towards our expenditure? And therefore, we're getting to use the same dollar twice.
I don't think the business service department, I think, accept the MOT. And at this moment, I'm not aware of that. My time and David's time were allowed, but definitely Fernando's time, the MOT
should ask
director.
that question.
We'll ask the question.
Yeah, okay.
Question?
Go ahead.
Question. Right now, this is just a proposed budget. And historically, there have been adjustments to the budget when it's finalized. How quickly do we find out what is actually going to trickle down to our district? How soon do you have that information?
We will use this preliminary budget for our second interim in starting the budget development for the 1920 adult budget. The governor will release the May revision, which is on the middle of the May. So the May revision will be the final assumption the district use for our adult budget.
Thank you.
And just to let you know, the timing is that we get that May revision of the budget, which is their best shot in the middle of May as to what next year is going to be. We are required to produce a budget in June. The state will produce their budget after we are required to produce ours, and that's when we'll know what we actually have.
And then if there's any recession, they'll cut it in January like they did.
In 2008, they cut it in November, I think, for the current year.
All right, thank you for explaining that. I appreciate that. And I do agree that we need to have the study sessions and be as transparent with the public with what is going on and the decisions that are being made with that $678,000 shortfall.
What are the consequences if we don't quite make that 3%?
Before I answer your question, I think there's a couple of 3% is kind of confusing. Earlier, your question is actually the 3% is required reserve. So this percent is we set aside for the routine restricted
I understand that, yeah.
So I think if we cannot make 3% reserve, we have to self-qualify. We have a problem as we did in the first interim. And then before we decide whether we can meet 3% reserve, we have to meet this requirement first, because that is the requirement for budget set aside.
We're already self-qualified.
Yes, we are already self-qualified. We are working on to try to improve our budget situation.
We're trying to what?
We try to reduce our deficit.
Reduce our deficit.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to obtain that 3% reserve, which is different than this 3%.
That's correct.
So are they correlated? Is there something that says that if we're self-qualified, we're not required to meet that 3% for maintenance?
No, we are required to meet the 3% set aside first. And then we will decide after that, then we decide whether we have enough reserve to meet the 3%.
No, self-qualified is a non-starter. You can go self-qualified till you get to the end. You cannot put in a self-qualified budget at the end. That is off the table. That's when you go under state control. Then really bad things happen.
Okay, that's it. My preliminary budget.
Okay, are there any more questions? Comments? All right, then let's move.
Well, I'm glad you cleared that up, Connie. Thank you very much.
Let's move on to enrollment and certificates.
Okay, the budget presentation continue. So we just talked about the budget, how we studied this budget. So here's how we starting with the budget. When we're starting the budget process for the new school year, and the enrollment projection will be address the potential revenue, and then staff projection will be indicate how much the cost for the next school year. So we list here for our enrollment trends in the last 5 years with actual and projection for the 1920. And the enrollment is the census day as a benchmark. And as you can see that 16-17 is really hurt us, because that year our enrollment on that day we were less 222 students, and the decline enrollment continue. And this year, compared with the last school year, we have 119 students less on that day, which is the first Wednesday of October. So the district, we use the weighted 3-year average to project the next school year's enrollment based on the each grade with the K and each grade promotion to the new school year. And we will give heavy weight for the immediate prior year, and decrease the slide for the year before, and the third year before will be less weighted. So we project that we will have 5,351 students, and that decline will be at 1.71%. So this is the graphic more visualize the district continue our decline enrollment. And based on the decline enrollment projection, each grade level at each school site, we will project our staffing. The staffing is the certificate staffing. Again, this is a math. It's the formula. It's the starting point. Yeah, maths. Yeah, maths. Yeah. Really? Okay.
I think you're right the way I understood it the first time.
Okay. So we use the formula to decide the number of the certificate staffing teachers we needed at each school site and compare what we have current year. And the formula leading to us that we may need 7.25 FTE less. So 0.25 is the timing the teacher spend in the classroom. Doesn't mean that we have a quarter of body in the school. So we talk about the full-time equivalent. So again, this is the formula. We project that we have a less staffing. And in the next couple of weeks, Business Service Department and Human Resource Department, we will meet each site principal to talk them to detail about their staffing need. Because when we have a special program like due emerging program, and sometimes formula staffing may not work well. And also we're talking about the credential subject area related. So this is staffing we are starting with it, and then whether in reality this 7.25 less staffing can be materialized depend on the detailed conversation, the meeting between the district office with the school site.
If I use a back of the envelope calculation, I take that 7.25 FTE, and that's about $678,000. Am I too far off?
Maybe not.
Okay.
All right, are there any questions, comments?
Can you go to the, I'm sorry. Can you go to the previous slide, please?
Sure.
One more, I'm sorry.
One more? Okay.
Thank you. What happened in between 2016, 17 and 17, 18? Or 15, 16, 16, 17?
Yeah.
What happened?
I know that if I say don't know, we're not answer.
Why don't I answer that?
Yeah.
So we had a precipitous drop in our enrollment that year, and it was quite a shock to the entire organization. What we did was we asked every school to call those who hadn't shown up, because students simply hadn't shown up on the first day of school, not just at the kindergarten level, but at every grade level. There was no system.
This is the difference between
that was the enrollment
day and
no, that was our enrollment. That was
the
according
difference in
to
enrollment.
CBEDS. That was on that census day.
That October 1st day.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Or
it wasn't the first day or
it was
week
the first
of school.
Wednesday in October. That was that number. But on the first day of school, it was bad. And so what we did was we called, and I think if I recall correctly, about 60% of our students' families had simply moved to different neighborhoods, different areas, for areas that had not been that weren't as expensive. What our office managers and our principals and our staff members heard was, my rent was raised 3 times this year, and we just needed to make it through the year.
That happened this year also, didn't it?
That is part of our trend. And so in 16-17, we did quite a few things to try and prevent the damage from extending continually, and also really what we tried to do was protect our people. And so we embarked on a early retirement incentive. Again, we tried to protect our people.
The 16-17, the huge drop, we weren't prepared for because we'd used the same way we had always used to forecast what our enrollment was going to be, which had been relatively accurate up to that point in time. I mean, well within a margin of error that most people would accept. That particular year was just like the perfect storm, in which everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Everything, worst case scenarios everywhere, just occurred. And from that point forward, all of the sites, administration took a much more hands-on approach to trying to determine, based on what the class sizes were in the previous years, based on all kinds of other on-site surveys, to get more accurate information, which was why this year was really unnerving, because we had revised our style since that day. And the first day of school, everybody's jaw dropped because we did put in the work. I mean, we really put in the work to get accurate information. The actual number that we ended up with 119, was relatively close to what we had projected was going to occur based on...
For 2018, 2019?
For 2018, 2019, based on what the enrollment of the various class sizes were in our district. The sites deserve an incredible amount of credit for getting on the phone. Every single principal, every single office worker got on the phone to the people that they thought were supposed to be enrolled and got them to come in to say, this is critical. If we would have had, if our initial numbers were correct, we would have had a catastrophe. Just catastrophe doesn't even really sum it up how bad it would have been. So although that particular 16-17 was definitely a wake-up call for us, the rest of the numbers, the projections have been pretty close. Pretty close.
If I may ask, David, we did a whole study session on this and how you do that. I think if you can make that report available to both Celine and to
I was either there or
Maritza,
witnessed it.
Because it goes pretty in depth into the formula that is used in order to calculate what they're going to do, and they look at it in
steps.
May, and to look at the next year because they need the staff.
What I'm looking at is declining enrollment, and what I'm hearing is that affordability, cost of living affordability in the city is at least partially a reason for that. Have we talked to this city? Have we had study sessions with city employees? Have we come to the city and said, this is a problem, how can you help us? Because this is a problem that we're dealing with that is happening.
And the answer to that question is yes, we've had multiple conversations with the city. The city doesn't drive the real estate value.
Yeah, but it's a discussion to have with the city because the city can have an impact on...
They are eminently aware of our declining enrollment, eminently aware.
What are they doing about it?
Well, the city, like I said, the city's responsibility, okay, I want to be, because this is really important. The school district is its own governmental agency. It's as far removed as the government from Arizona is from California. And so what happens in Arizona, while it does affect California, California has very little impact or the ability to change what happens in Arizona. So if you think about it like that, it's easier to understand. The city has its own set of problems that we don't engage in either that affect us. And so we have to be very mindful of that. One of them is on water. Okay, it's huge. But the issue is, what's the city doing to keep the cost of living down in the city of Monrovia? That's not the city's job to do. That's the fair market forces at work that keep that going. So the question becomes, does the city promote affordable housing? The answer is yes. If you look at some of the new development they just put in, they specified a certain number of units. I think it was 20 on the next one. But the term affordable is now define affordable, because you're talking about a unit that's costing $3,000 a month to rent.
Right,
and
$3,900.
And even if you reduce that by 20%, which is then qualifying on the affordable side, it's outrageous.
Well, I want to be clear, so that you understand. I know that the city and the district are separate governing agencies. What I'm looking for is an opportunity for us to sit with the city and see what we can do, because just saying we can't do anything about the cost of living or we can't do anything about affordable housing is one of those, meh, we can't do anything. And, we've got robots on Mars. And I'd like us to have the opportunity to sit down and discuss and see, what can we do? How can we be innovative? How can we make changes? And how can we look at the relationship that the district and the city have? Because the city relies heavily on the, I think we employ 700 employees.
Yeah, 50.
So, the city relies on us as much as we rely on the city. And I'd like to have a study session where we sit down and talk with the...
We actually have joint meetings with the city.
We have joint meetings.
Wonderful.
I'd
like to make sure that we talk about that at the next one.
Affordable housing?
If I could also mention that part of the declining enrollment figures that came out last year were in that first day of school, where we were all shocked, was that some families were still on vacation. We found out that they were still on vacation. So what can the district do to market that first day of school right now? Not wait till the summer. Hey, first day of school is it? But let's do it now. Let's get that out to the parents, to the public, so that when they're booking their vacations, they are aware of that first day and they are present. I have also driven through cities where they put banners on their main street, first day of school, see you there. So if we're not doing that, maybe we can also employ that.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I actually have a question on your slides. You had mentioned that we, based on the projection of staff, would drop by seven and a quarter FTEs.
Mm-hmm.
Was that number taken into consideration before, after, or during the time we found out that we had to spend an extra 1% on maintenance?
That's not based on that.
No, I understand that. I'm trying to find the relationship to find out if this savings would be able to do the offset on our other issue.
There are far too many other variables. Yeah, it is worthy of a study
This is
session.
just another...
That's just another variable.
Penny in the jar.
This is independently
just
developed and much more to be discussed.
I think everybody's hamsters are running, trying to figure out how we're going to come up with this gap, because that's huge. And nobody wants to cut services.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Let's move on to consent agenda. Can I have a motion?
Move consent.
Second.
All right. Any items to be pulled? Should have asked that first. All right.
You're welcome.
Ms. Huff, take the vote.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Then that will put us over to item L, action items, educational services. Dr. Kaiser, you want to talk to us about the new course offering at the high school?
I would love to, President Gilliland, Board, fellow cabinet members, and public. The Board of Education is requested to adopt AVID 12 as a new course offering for 12th grade high school students. And AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. It's an academic elective course that prepares students for college readiness and success, and it is scheduled during the regular school day for a year-long course. Each week, students receive instruction utilizing a rigorous college preparatory curriculum provided by the AVID Center. Facilitated study groups, motivational activities, and academic success skills. In AVID, students participate in activities that incorporate strategies focused on writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading to support their academic growth. We have many AVID courses beginning in middle school and going all the way up through high school, so this would be a capstone course. The budget implication is this course will cost approximately $4,600 for the materials and the training of the teacher and the tutoring, and this would be paid for from the supplemental and concentration funds.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Huff, oh, I guess I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry.
All right. Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Travanti,
Yes.
Board Member Hammond,
Yes.
Board Member Wong,
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie,
Yes.
Board President Gilliland.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item L2, Field Boxes and Service Award. Ms. Wu.
I would like to invite the MOT Director, Mr. Fernando Martinez, to present this agenda to the board.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, Dr. Throsian, Cabinet, and members of the public. If we remember back in November 14th board meeting, the board approved the replacement of the turf field over at the high school. Part of that whole project included back then the replacement and moving all communication boxes and irrigation boxes close to the curb around the track field. That agenda item was pulled out. And the purpose for that was because we needed to find a more economical way of doing that. The cost was, I believe it was somewhere around $78,000, which, you know, my team and myself, we went out there, we decided that that needed to be further assessed as to how we can cut down the cost, and based on what the real needs were. And speaking with staff at the site, speaking with contractors and whatnot, well, we came around and we found a way to reduce the cost. So basically, what it was decided and is being presented to you tonight is that all 6 boxes, the communication boxes, will be replaced. Oh, sorry. 6 boxes will be replaced. Only 2, the ones in the 50-yard lines, will be moved to or against the curve, concrete curve. And the reason behind that is because those 2 boxes in the middle are closer to the play field. To start off, there they are. There they are. So basically, if you can see, those are a little bit closer to the play field. And as you may remember, soccer lines are going to be widened meaning that they're going to be closer to those boxes. If you can see right now, it's just a tripping hazard, an accident waiting to happen. So the corner boxes, the four corner boxes, they're about 6 inches away from the curb, further away from the play field, and you can tell the impact that they've received, the middle boxes versus the corner boxes. So there was no need, we don't see a need to move the corner boxes. However, again, I'll repeat it, we need to replace those boxes. Those boxes, they were not up to code. They were not graded or rated for that purpose. They were constructed wrong. There was no base, there was no concrete base to support the weight. There's no proper drainage. Let me see. And that's what we have. We have those boxes filled with water, not up to code whatsoever. It's just a hazard waiting to happen. So that's pretty much the rationale behind replacing those boxes, bringing the wires up, adding boxes or junction boxes that are weatherproofed. They are sealed. The new boxes will have the proper drainage. They will be installing a concrete base, so they will stay level with the ground, making it a lot safer. I guess that's it.
So is this contract or the purchase order, whatever we're doing with it, this purchase, for the repair of those two field boxes or the replacement of those two field boxes?
So it is the replacement of all the boxes. There's that needs to be corrected. So it is for the replacement of all 6 boxes. Only the middle boxes and the 50 are gonna be moved.
So whoever makes the motion needs to make the motion to repair or replace all 6 boxes.
Can I ask a question first?
Please.
Yep. So the projected cost for replacing these 6 boxes, replacing the 6 and moving 2, is $15,055?
Correct.
That's a big difference from $78,250. Why?
Because, let me see if I can say this.
Why don't you start with that vendor is going to be removed from our list of providing fair and appropriate bids.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And that vendor is no longer on my list.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what happened. The replacement of the turf project was added. Let me take that back. The replacement of the boxes, moving the boxes, was added or in conjunction with the overall project of replacing the turf field.
So part of that $78,000 included turf work?
No.
That was
what
just
happened was the turf is under warranty and it needs to be repaired. And the turf had a value to it. At the time, Chris Rich, who was on the board, said while we're doing that, we should fix these boxes that are in bad repair. And then the boxes were looked at. The first company that came out said you need to move all these boxes if you intend to widen the striping for the soccer field, and gave us a price that you saw, the $76,000. Mr. Rich at the time said that does not seem like that's the right price at all, and spent considerable amount of time over there putting his arm down into the ground and pulling the things apart, looking at it, and coming up, and with staff coming up with the conclusion that it does not need to be what these guys were talking about. And in fact, there were other issues that were brought to bear about sound and things like that were at the conversation at the time that don't need to be anymore, because technology has advanced itself to the point that you're not even cabling underground. So that's how we got to this point right here. But it was actually Chris Rich that brought the thing up about these I didn't even know the boxes were there until Chris brought it up. I had no idea. And so when he brought it up, that's when it happened. And then started looking at doing those boxes to fixing them, because we were going to rip the field up to put the new field down because it was under warranty.
Right.
And that's when it came up.
So I'd like to ask the board if it says that it says right here in the background, these boxes were installed improperly. Have we gone to the people that installed it and said, you got to fix it, or you have to give us our money back, or are these under warranty? I mean, if these were improperly installed, why are we paying to have them fixed?
I'm not aware of us going back to the original contractor to have the problem addressed or fixed. I don't know that they were installed improperly as much as they could have been done far better. Meaning that, for example, the reason this is filled with water was because they didn't set a foundation, they didn't put any gravel in to have it drain properly. The box is in. I don't know if that qualifies as being done improperly. It was a crappy job, no question about that, but I don't know if it raises to the standard of done poorly or not. And part of the problem was these boxes were of such cheap quality that if they said we'll replace the boxes, we wouldn't take them.
And the part of the contract that would come under, the warranty didn't extend this long.
That's true.
The warranty on the turf itself did extend this long, but not on
Two
the
different
grading,
companies.
the boxes,
Right, I
et cetera.
remember the turf
So
more.
it wasn't under that. Now, you know, at the time it was put in, it was inspected by not only our own inspector, but by the DSA inspectors. And so it
Everyone
met
signed
code, it just, they were shoddy boxes. I mean, I don't want to say shoddy work, even though it might be.
appropriate equipment.
Yeah.
It may have been approved, but it wasn't
So-
appropriate.
Thanks for being here tonight. I am the one that asked for the pictures, so I appreciate you providing those. I think the public needs to have a better understanding
Absolutely.
of why we need to replace these boxes, and I definitely don't disagree with you. They need to be replaced. It's about safety. For the two boxes that are being moved on the 50-yard line, what happens with that space where the old boxes were? Is that part of the agreement here? I mean, I would think they'd need to turf over.
Yes. So the answer is yes. They're going to fill back that hole. They're going to dig those boxes out,
Okay.
fill them back up, and then the turf is going to go over that. The new turf is going to go over that. And, you know, if I may mention where the boxes, the area where those boxes are going to be moved, the track is going to be covered, or those boxes are going to be covered with the track material instead of the turf.
The track material.
Yes.
So that's all part of this agreement.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it is. It is. So the track is another project, just to be clear. The replacement of the turf is one, and part of that, the track repaired, it's a different project. So we coordinated with the contractor that's going to be doing the track. I walked the site with the individual. I told him this is what's going to happen if the board approves this, of course. But be ready. We want that the track material covers those two boxes.
All right, so the timing obviously is very important.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, do I have a motion to replace 6 boxes?
So moved.
Okay. And with the caveat of replacing, moving two boxes and replacing all 6.
That is correct. Thank you, Mr. Hammond.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Ms. Huff, would you take the vote?
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item L3, National School Breakfast Week. Ms. Wu.
Yes, we request the board to adopt a resolution number 18-19-06, proclaiming the week of the March 1st to 8th as a National School Breakfast Week. During the week, our school from the K to 5, all the students will receive free breakfast. The recent study indicate that the students who eat breakfast will have improved academic grades and scores. And they also help, the breakfast also can keep the kids maintain a healthy weight. And in the 17-18 school years, the district served 199,573 breakfasts to all the students in our district. We also want to take this opportunity to recognize the dedication of the food service workers of Monrovia Unified School District provided the breakfast as well as the meals, and the program has been successfully passed their review.
Any questions, comments? I think Dr. Therosian might have been working on the possibility of us having a breakfast at some time as a board.
In fact, expect in this week's update a request, an invitation to have breakfast together during that week at one of our elementary schools. Now, the free breakfasts are only for the children, but they are still fine breakfasts and worth far more.
Would this be the same kind of breakfast that Board Member Zuko was looking for that one time?
Upon request, I'm sure it could be.
All right, good. That's a good question.
Consider the request put in.
You may not know how good that's a really good question. All right, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Ms. Huff, would you take the vote, please?
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And with that, we'll recess the open session meeting and reconvene the closed session.